Welcome everyone back to Pomminos. I hope we're all doing really well. We're at Hump Day, aren't we? And I hate Wednesdays. I just find they're a bit of a nothing day. I'm back here. A little bit of a change of programming. We are going to continue with the Carlton coaching series, but I want to have some good time to really do some really good episodes. I don't want to half-arse it. So we're just going to break it down a little bit during the trade period. I've got something really special that we are starting off soon that I'm going to release in the next couple of weeks. I am super excited about this. I've been working on it for a long time, so do bear with me. There is something really exciting coming that I'm going to do with my own journey, really. So I want you guys and girls to see that, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's going to be really cool. So I'm trying to put a bit of time into that, and obviously work as well. Yeah, someone's got to pay the bills, haven't you? And you hate it, don't you? So if you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. It does mean the world to me. We just hit 1,500. So first of all, huge thank you to everyone who watches me, who supports me through the way, who, you know, drops comments, likes, shares, sends questions, sends abuse even. You're all welcome. I really do appreciate it. It has really kept me connected, particularly over this last year in lockdown. I can't thank you enough, and honestly, it warms the wee cockles of me heart. So I thought what we talk about today is obviously AFL trade period is Pom's bag, baby, and draft time coming up. So I thought we'd talk about just now, as I'm recording this, the radio was broken that Adam Cerra has officially nominated Carlton Football Club. So at the moment, what do we know? Well, we know Pick 6 is involved. I mean, that's no surprise. Worst kept secret in AFL, is it not? And there's going to be a swap with later picks. They're suggesting a fourth for a third, which is quite commonplace because evidently the AFL can't just do a straight up swap. You've got to throw in some steak knives to get some dessert spoons back. Baffling. So I thought what we'd do is obviously, first of all, it's Pick 6. So Pick 6 historically is what we call the cursed number in the AFL. And the reason being, right, if you look at Pick 1, in the 37 drafts that we've had, we're expecting 156 games from Pick 1. That goes down to 137 for 2, 134 for 3, 103 for 4, 123 for 5. Pick 5 is that anomaly. And then 64 games with Pick 6. Pretty much, if you could get taken Pick 6, you're probably going to be shite. And it's a weird thing. It really is. It's one of them just weird things, is it not? Obviously, you've got some anomalies there. Chad Wingard, he's still kicking along. 194 games for Mr. Wingard. Reece Conker had 150. Gary, I don't play finals. Rowan, 165. But there's been some really pants ones. There was the first ever one taken in 81. Peter Hoffner, he had 0 points. So did Paul Burton in Sydney. He had no games as well. And more recently, if we look at it, you've got Fisher McCasey. He was really highly tied at Adelaide, had a lot of injuries. He's only at 10 games at the moment. Ben King, he's one that, you know, you would expect to be good. We know that Lloydie froths the King brothers. And obviously, Jack McRae is a real good one. But Jack McRae is kind of an exception to the rule as he is a comp pick, so he doesn't really count. Obviously, Carlton, we've got quite a bit of a history with this one. Obviously, you've got SPS there. And Murray Vance, who is in the top 5 of least games played from this pick. He played 5 games. So, interesting there. So, Pick 6. What has Pick 6 been used for in the draft? Well, there's 2 recent ones that are kind of similar makeup, per se, of this one. And they're quite interesting, actually. Pick 6 and 23 went to Melbourne from Fremantle for Jesse Hogan, and as we know, that lasted probably about as long as a Yorkshire pudding does with some nice homemade onion gravy in my house. Not very long, and he ended up being offloaded to GWS. But you can see there, that's the kind of calibre. Jesse Hogan kind of was a speculative pick. But one that was really recent, and I thought this is a really good one for us to go on, because it is kind of similar in draft points. Well, it's almost identical when you count the 3rd and 4th swap. And that is in 2016, Gold Coast sold Prestia for a future 2nd and Pick 6 to Richmond Tigers. And they got, obviously, Prestia and 24 back. Now, it's an interesting one, this, because if you actually look at Prestia and Cerra. Now, obviously, there is 24% separating them of on-ball time. So that is actually being in the centre of this year. So we're going to count 2016, the last year that Dion Prestia played for them. For Gold Coast, and we're going to count this year for Cerra. Now, it's really interesting because Prestia is kind of regarded as one of the key conduits for Richmond going from also-rans to that dynasty, because he really brought that physicality around the contest, freed players like Dustin Martin up, it allowed Cochin to become more of a conduit in the midfield. He's a real key pillar, and Dimmer has mentioned him quite a few times in any Richmond paraphernalia from that time, of how core he is, how important he was to that midfield setup. And you look at 2017, it was a very similar Richmond to 2016, but it suddenly had a little bit more role players in there. And Dion Prestia, the little meatball himself, is a real type player. So I thought what we'll do is we'll look at the stats. So obviously Adam Cerra at the moment, he's 21 years old, he's still a bubby. And age-wise for Dion Prestia, he had a few more seasons in the AFL, remember, 24. And that made out 95 games to 76. Now, what is really interesting when we go through this is that their stats aren't alarmingly different. Now, obviously, one of the ones that really sticks out is marks. Now, we know that a lot of that 20-odd% is made up of him being out on the wing, Adam Cerra for Fremantle, or also just coming off halfback. And he doesn't really play the traditional halfback role. He plays more of an aggressive halfback role. So you can see there the marks are a bit different. Score involvements there, you see the goals and the behinds. We're starting to see there in that aspect of just actually physically being there. We know Cerra overlaps a lot and gets inside there. So that is a key point of difference there for Carlton, because that is something we lack, probably ability to hit the scoreboard from the midfield. And he's got real good grounding there. Them 6.6 behinds says to us that, you know, better quality of ball, he's a bit more impetus. The tackles now obviously there, 5.4 for that, but there is a counter argument for that. You look at Richmond and they really needed a hard contested player, where Carlton have got we have got Cripper, we have got Kennedy, and now we've got George Hewitt as well. So you've really compensated. We probably needed tackles. You could probably say that we don't have the class that Richmond had at the time outside of the ball, and this is where Adam Cerra comes in. Inside 50s, that's a real positive for Carlton, because they are quality inside 50s as well. You see, he really mixes up the play. But you see the contested possessions for that 20-odd%, they aren't huge, and you can see he is very efficient with the ball. 68%. It's in the AFL average, it's verging on very good, it's verging in that area. And obviously you find with efficiency from the ages of about 23 to 26, that's when it peaks. It's really plateaus. So you've got to see Adam Cerra's coming up to that. Dion Prestia was around there, and if you look at his disposal efficiency since then, hasn't astronomically changed at all. So you can see there that mirrors that argument that it is plateauing. Clearance is not much different. Rebound 50 is not much different. 1% is really interesting, this. That, you know, them 1% is what we usually consider as tough guy stats. Them difference makers. Actually, Cerra is a better player in that regard at this stage. And score involvements, 0.9 between them. Meters gained, really impressive. Intercept possessions, impressive. Not much in the tackle inside 50s. And the pressure acts, again, something that's really key. A real good starting point there for 15.7, especially when you see that when he does play a little bit further down the back, you actually find that, you know, your smaller players down there don't get the major pressure act numbers that you would expect from an on-baller, particularly when you're playing out on the wing. So, all in all, it is actually a real myriad, really, because you would ask yourself, is Dion Prestia a pick six? Now, I went back through Richmond's forums and through some groups, and they thought it was bargain basement prices. So, as I always do with these, I have an initial thing, and I was quite against the pick six for Adam Cerra, and I still am when I take in the contracted. For me, and this is just maybe me being stuck in my ways, coming from the round ball, so do forgive me, but to try and explain it to you guys and girls, I'm really against having to pay market value for a player that is effectively unemployed in a month and a bit. To me, it makes no sense that there isn't a rule that offsets that, because it's a bit nothing, because really it comes to the situation now of, it's kind of like Tom Papley. But, you know, when Tom Papley had that 5-year deal, there was no need for Sydney to trade him. Now there is a need, but the market value would probably be what it is anyway. It would be around that money even if he's in a contract. So it doesn't really affect it. It affects it in the terms of that free or lose out. Now, PSD's there. Now, do I think he'd get to us? I think if you actually use a bit of intelligence and you look at the salary cap for the teams below us, outside of Adelaide, who I reckon have got a bit of money to burn, I can't really see it happening. I really can't. Hawthorn have often distanced themselves in the PSD from this because of the way that they orientate their list. They don't really look to interfere in other trades anyway. They are kind of, you nominate us first and we'll take you. They're not a team that genuinely plays second fiddle, and that's because of the culture of their club. So I would say that there is a 70-30 chance in PSD would come to Carlton. Now, I don't even like that method, to be honest. I think you can use it as a threat, and I think the threat will bear substance as it gets closer. But my question is, why doesn't the AFL have some kind of rule that stops this happening? Because I think the impetus should be on the club re-signing a player, and then if that's not going to happen, that's tough luck, because then what it does is it opens up the draft. It opens up the draft as a lottery. It opens up a commitment of creating good culture, treating players first to keep them to stay there. And I think it's interesting because there's rumours that Ben King's going to leave Gold Coast. And it's all right people saying, oh, but it's going to jeopardise the poor teams. You're always going to get good players wanting to leave poor teams. Very few stay. Particularly nowadays where the game is becoming more and more what it should be as a competitive sport, that players want to win. So it's an interesting one. Now with Cerra though, as we've seen here, without a doubt he's pick 6, because if Prestia was pick 6, we can see his numbers ain't so far off, even given the lesser game time on the ball and even given the lesser games to develop. So I think it's a really interesting thing. So what we're saying here is that I'm not saying that Adam Cerra is going to catapult us to a Richmond dynasty. Maybe I am. But I think what we're seeing here is just on historical data, you can see the premise there of what you're getting and what you're paying. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be against it, particularly opposition, because they just say that we pay overs. But at the end of the day, you're not paying overs if you're getting the return. And I think with Adam Cerra, there's a little bit of a difference between him and Adam Saad when you talk about pick 8. Adam Saad plays a game that is genuinely hot and cold anyway. Adam Cerra, he plays a game that's steady, that is a 7, 6 out of 10 all the time. He's a workhorse in that avenue. So I think it's a really exciting thing, and I'm starting to come round to it. You know, the adrenaline's going now. We're getting a player. Makes me excited. So it's good news. It's good news that through all this off-season turmoil in the last couple of weeks, we are still attracting top players. Adam Cerra is a top player, and in my honest opinion, he is worth pick 6 all day long. If it's a swap of a 3rd and a 4th, in points, it's fuck all. It really is. When you get to the round 3rd to the 4th, you are talking speculative picks. And, you know, historical data just on AFL draft picks alone, you are talking the difference in your 38s to your 60s. You're talking about 7, 8 games as a core medium of what you're getting. So you're not really losing out at all. So I think, you know, it's probably fair value. They'll probably add that 3rd and 4th swap. If that happens, it happens. Interesting enough that pick 40 is one of the anomalies in the draft as well, because you actually get 90 games. So interesting little side pom fact there. But all in all, to reassure you, I personally think it's fair value. So what I'm doing in this trade, and I implore everyone else to do, just take the art of contract out your head. Because the AFL don't care about this rule. They just want it to be self-policed. And it's proof, because this is another time that it's just so happened Carlton are affected by it. I always thought the Jack Martin thing would create an anomaly on the rule. Hasn't, as this case. So it's going to be interesting. But I do think that rule is a discussion for a later time. But let me know what you think. Are you excited about Adam Sard? Are you excited about Adam Cerra? We know that Cerra is what he is at the moment. There is only scope. Historical, he will get better. Are you happy with it? Would you like to see PSD? What are your thoughts on uncontracted free agents? Is that something that you think the AFL need to address? Let me know in the comments. We'll have a chat about it. Until next time, Pom out.